Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. We are talking about the looming teacher strike. And of course, a lot has already been said. Before we took the break, just to come back to you, Mheshimiwa Omboko, you talked about the failure of the implementation of the second phase of the 2021-2025 collective bargaining agreement as one of the key issues that the teachers are raising now, that the reasons why they are threatening to down their tools come 26th of August 2024. And I'm just curious, because this is not the first time the elephant in the room is the collective bargaining agreement. Even in the other strikes we've seen in other sectors, it's always about failure to implement the collective bargaining agreement. And my question is, how are these agreements arrived at? Could it be that we are biting more than we can chew, so that, you know, at the tail end of the implementation process, we realize suddenly we cannot afford to foot the bill of the CBAs? Or is it, I don't know, is it just lack of goodwill, or where could the problem be emanating from?
Thank you. I understand you want to move me to the next level on how the CBAs are arrived at. But before then, the other issues why the teachers are going on strike is that for a long time there have been many issues which teachers have been grappling with. I talked about the medical cover which has been cut. Nabi did indicate that he agrees with that. But I want to add that, do you know that the teachers had to lose their medical allowance for the medical cover to be put in place? So you again need, and this country needs to understand, that when teachers demand for medical cover, it was their own money. Formerly, teachers were getting medical allowance. And the medical allowance was scrapped. And it was pulled into a pool of monies that then provided medical cover to the teachers. So when you cut it, you are actually taking away what originally was teachers' money. It has been cut by 50%. The third issue is the JSS teachers who are supposed to be confirmed. And there are 46,000 of them. I'm proud that in one of the meetings at State House, I asked the president that the money that was in the budget was only 13 billion, which would only cover 26,000. Where was the rest for the 20,000? I'm happy it was increased to 18.5 billion. And that's why we are demanding that all the 46,000 be confirmed. And that's also the same time we pleaded that the ones who had been sacked because of their strike be reinstated. I want to thank the president that when he rose from his place, he actually pardoned the 751 who were supposed to be dismissed because they had participated in the JSS strike. The other issue is stagnation of teachers. Like Nabi did indicate, and thank you, Nabi MP, that more than 130,000 teachers have stagnated in their job groups for as long as more than 15 to 20 years. I want to tell this country that teachers are still having now the very unique challenge which we had never experienced in the education sector. Third-party deductions. You know, we have NSSF experience in the education sector. Third-party deductions. You know, we have NSSF which should not even be deducted from the teachers. I'll be speaking on that. But we have other deductions, including bank loans. Are you aware that those third-party deductions, for the first time, Janet, you can look in my eyes, because I've been here with you for quite some times, are not being remitted to the banks. And the banks are now charging teachers to pay their loans, despite the fact that third-party deductions are being done on their pay slips. And then we have the issue of acting teachers. The CPG, which was supposed to be the career progression program, must be scrapped now because it's not allowing teachers to progress. And so many schools are lacking deputies, so many schools are lacking heads, and there's nothing being done about that. So all these go to the many issues, among others, which are making the teachers say that, for instance, we should scrap the CPG and do away with it so that we can have a promotion of teachers to become deputies and heads of schools. And then we have so many acting teachers, and they are not getting special allowance. Neither are they getting acting allowance. Ordinarily, according to the Labor Relations Act, when you are acting in a position, you are supposed to get a percentage of your salary for the acting purposes. This is not being paid, and therefore teachers have been reeling in so many challenges. And that's why on the 26th, added with the fact that the CBA has not been respected, the teachers will be downing their tools. And I want then to go to your question. But how are CBAs arrived? CBA is a necklace of labor discussions worldwide, acknowledged by the International Labour Organization. In fact, whenever any group of workers go on strike and they have not negotiated a CBA, it's perceived that they are not doing it in good faith. So we negotiate with the employer. We consult the SRC, which was put in place. Remember, we as unionists were against the SRC because it's curtailing and controlling the CBAs. But this particular one we are talking to, the SRC is involved. The Teacher Service Commission is involved. The teachers' unions are involved. The courts are involved because they registered it as an agreement of court. And therefore, that's why I talked about the issue of contempt of court. The president is aware of it, like Janet did. This matter must be handled by my president. You know, I'm a Kwanzaa member of parliament. My president must listen to this and deal with this matter precisely. Remember, this education sector was enjoying some rare peace for quite some time. And disturbing it would not be good for this country, because the residual effect that is going to do to our children, to do to our systems, is so
but massive. If there was that level of stakeholder
there is 130,000 teachers.
Before you go to that, if there was that level of stakeholder engagement, why then would there be an about turn on the implementation of this CBA that you're talking about? What are the loose ends?
You don't need to be a professor. That's why the teachers are going on strike on 26th. Because once one party fails to beat its bargain, the other party, which is the teachers, they have no option but to call for a nationwide strike. We should not fail to actually honor our deals and our agreements.
Now, I start from where my brother Mboko has left. The question is, why are teachers threatening to go on strike?
We are not threatening. We are going on strike.
Okay. Why have they given notice to go on strike? This is the issue. I think this country has tolerated bad behavior for far too long. And that is why the Gen Z were asking, they want good governance. One of the things about good governance is building trust with your institutions, that your word counts, that when Ouko tells me something in public, I should not at any time doubt it, and especially when one is in a position of leadership. Now, worse off is that you even append a signature willingly. You append a signature and say, look, we have now agreed that this is the direction to go. Something very critical, which I want to echo what Honorable Member is saying. One of the things that Kibaki regime did for this country was to elevate the position of education in the budget.
Yeah.
He said, look, with education we don't even argue. Give them first, let's deal with the other issues. We have gone back. We are actually reversing the development clock and forgetting that in the 2010 constitution we recognize and put it in writing that education is a right. Now, when teachers go on strike and children cannot be taught, you have interfered with people's rights. The future of our nation is threatened. And that is why I keep on saying, the moment there is a strike in the educational sector, you have threatened security of the country. Because it's a moral base. What do we need to do? Where we are. Where we are is that we have enough time between now and the date the teachers have given to go on strike to provide. I mean, that talk.
The CS Labour met with officials. Have you got the same invite, an extension of the same?
Let me put it clear to the nation. We have already written to the CS Labour, registering what is called a labour dispute between ourselves, the teachers of Kenya, and the Teacher Service Commission, because that is the protocol and procedure to use. And the letter is with him. But what I saw yesterday cannot help anything. Janet is here. We have been here for a long time. That was a courtesy call by KNUT to the CS Labour. I'll be doing the same. But that cannot sort out this.
All right.
Those are many talks that you have. Usually waste time as students don't go to school.
Okay.
The matter is to be resolved by the institutions that have the power to do so.
Let me tell you, this is how I prescribe the solution. Treasury needs to have a session with the Budget Committee of Parliament, with TSC, to work out on modalities on how to find the money. Basic principle. We just need to find the money from within the budget we have and provide for it. And I believe from where I sit. And this, with Honorable Mbadi, the nation gave you 100% approval. This is your first test.
That money can be found within the budget.
Within the budget.
For sure.
If the policemen got 3.5 billion salary increment, why would we be negating on a CBA that was already signed and is registered in the court? The competition between, and I'm just using their words, brick and mortar, competing with education, is what we need to demystify. Yesterday we were doing the popular extra revenues to the counties. When you look at all that budget processes, Honorable Mbadi, looking through what we have, we can get the monies for the teachers and we resolve this.
Janet, this culture, perennial culture of industrial action and legal battles, it's becoming quite common in our country. Must we push people to the wall for things to get done? What is your assessment of our strategy of resolving this? Because this is a very critical time.
And listening to my colleague panelists here, very respected men of society who sit actually where action happens, and that happens to be Parliament. And listening to them, you can get a feel of what we have made of the budget process. Look at the appreciation of what education is to this country. Look at where they place education in terms of what the Constitution has given to these children and where education has been in the budget. And look at the decisions that Parliament makes. That tells you that there's something that is very wrong. We decided that we are crashing our institutions by allowing decisions to be made by one person and then influencing a few people within Parliament to pass certain decisions. But then now, those are the consequences that we have to come back and deal with. And in all honesty, I can say that the education sector is really assaulted like never before. We have lost 24% of the capitation grant that children of this country used to get. The only good thing about this government is that children cannot go on strike. But if they were to go on strike today, there is no child that can report to school on 26th. They could be on the streets claiming their 24%. The capitation grant has been reduced unceremoniously and without explanation from 22,000 to 17,000. And children and parents of this country will do nothing about it. There is a conversation happening about that there is no money. If everybody is tightening the belts, can we tighten the belts, all of us, and not places, experiencing booms, and then critical sectors such as education, just because there is nobody that can threaten the regime that is. Children are the easiest target, and that is why it was very easy for the government to run to the capitation grant, because who can go to the street? The head teachers of this country cannot go to the street. They will be sacked. They are beneficiaries of that government. There is no head teacher that can challenge government that you have reduced capitation. So what happens? Report to schools today, and they are stuffed of cash. So what happens? They charge the parents. So still the parents of this country get to feel the heat. And even this conversation you're listening to about teachers, it still will hurt. It will hurt our education by so much more. Every parent of this country should get worried when you hear that the teacher that actually takes care of your child does not have a medical cover. I do not know what happens to us when the shoe is pinching someone. What happens to us not speaking up on their behalf? And that is why we are saying, for the first time, so many people and so many parents agree with the teachers of this country this morning. Because for the last 4 years, parents have breathed some relief that education has happened without any interruption. And I'm telling you, more than 4 years. I think we're back about six years, thereabout.
10 years.
But what we want to have, the conversation we're having with the president this morning, I refuse to have this conversation with Parliament because Parliament is not independent. They will not make any decisions. Parliament does not have any money to give to anybody. If they had, they would have made these decisions. Look at these gentlemen. They have very good appreciation of what budget should be looking like, but it is not looking the way they are thinking. Tells you they're not the people making the decision. I want to tell the teachers of this country not to have this conversation with Nancy Macharia because she does not have money. Let's not pretend here that the teachers, you'll see them going to occupy TSC. Going to occupy TSC to do what? Nancy Macharia does not have the answers to your problems. The answers to your problems can only be answered by one William Ruto because he is a president. He is the decision maker. Clearly, we have seen this happening. He is the decision maker. Let him tell us and let him demonstrate. Where do you put the education of this country? If schools do not open come 26th of August, if schools do not open, it will be a very serious indictment on his person. We have lost it on our institutions, really. We have lost it. Didn't you see the other day what was happening when the Gen Z went to the streets for very legitimate causes that everybody agreed with? Didn't you see the president telling the members of parliament that go and remove this, go and remove the other? What was that? We cannot sit here and say parliament should do this. No. Let the teachers of this country take that conversation to the president. And Mr. President, the leadership of restoring education to where you found it. Don't even improve it. Just take education back to where you found it.
Mheshimiwa Nabii, I wanted to believe Parliament is independent. These ideas that you're sharing with us this morning, and even you have put proposals on the table on the solution that can work. I wanted to believe that is something that, as a member of Parliament sitting there in the Education Committee, you could actually push.
Now, the issue of independence of Parliament or not independence of Parliament is neither here nor there. Why am I saying this? It's because of a systemic issue. Despite the fact that the Constitution bestowed on Parliament the mandate to make to have the final say on the budget, our kind of democracy, which I call controlled democracy, from where I see it, is such that the executive has not let it go fully the budget making process. It's fact. I know.
So is the independence a fallacy? Is it a fallacy?
After it's through.
So it starts with the executive making a proposal to Parliament. And again, the way the structure of making budget is the extent to which Parliament can temper with that proposal. That is where the problem is. And therefore that means we still need to relook at our structure of making budget, especially the PFM Act. To what extent can Parliament, and especially for me, a departmental committee, so that you see, I will give you, as a department we appreciated what we want, but it has to go to another committee called Budget and Appropriation Committee that consolidates the whole budget, and it just vetoes what we've said.
So is the role of Parliament reduced to rubber stamping the proposal by the executive?
No, not that. I'm telling you, it is the structure. We have to relook at the structure of budget making process. Mm-hmm. From the practical point of view, mm-hmm. and allow enough space to Parliament, if they feel they need to undo that, the whole of that budget, let them be allowed to undo the budget so that they are responsible to the country.
All right. Mheshimiwa Mboko.
Thank you. I'll come in specifically for the question you asked. Parliament is coming specifically for the question you asked. Parliament is the institution that has the responsibility of appropriating monies to everyone and every institution. On the day when the supplementary one was done, I had been out and arrived in Parliament, and when I checked the supplementary one, I noticed that the Teacher Service Commission monies had been reduced by 10 billion. Because we have leverage to move around, I went to the budget chair, Ndindi Nyoro. Yeah. I talked to him. I went to the leadership to talk to him. I talked to the education committee chair, because earlier on we had been talking with the education committee chair when Teacher Service Commission CEO was meeting, and they had assured us these monies would be in the budget, only for the chair of budget to indicate that the money was not there. Even if this money was to be gotten tomorrow, it is still Parliament that will appropriate. It cannot be appropriated without Parliament unless it's done under the constitutional clause 223, where spending can be done without approval of Parliament, and then Parliament is sought to approve later, which Parliament itself has very serious reservations on its use because it can be misused, having seen what happened when we were changing from one government to another. Therefore, Parliament, I then raised an alarm the same day that Parliament, I'm talking to you as my colleagues on the floor, on floor of the House. Yes. I raised that alarm that the monies for the teachers is not here and is going to affect us the next day. Our parliamentarians should have just helped us to make sure that we get that money from any other vote head and put it in place. So what needs to happen is that Parliament has got its powers, but it has to exercise it strongly. The failure for us having stood strongly to actually even get money from whatever point and allocate for the teachers is what is leading us here. Of course, remotely. When you do an election, and I'm a teacher of history in government, you elect the executive in the name of the president. The president is the overall, and the president is the one who is in charge basically of even the education, because education is in the constitution. So who swears to defend the constitution? It is not you, it's not me. And that is why his input in budget is very important, and is correctly so doing. It's not by any error that he should, in fact, input on what is happening in the budget, because education is a right. He swore and he has sworn to protect the Constitution. So he has a responsibility, and that's why Janet was talking, and I'm also pleading with him that this is part of the business that is on his desk, that monies for teachers be found. And I'm pleading with the president to do exactly that. He's not out of order when he does that. It is his responsibility. He swore to protect the Constitution. So even when he does that, he's not micromanaging Parliament, but he's actually doing his constitutional duty. Thank you.
Just a minute. When a right is threatened, when a right of a populace is threatened, it is the responsibility of every Kenyan to help restore that right. This is a constitutional order. And a country that prides itself that we are living a democracy, we are not a country left for anarchy, then what it means is that all of us have a constitutional mandate to defend everyone's right. This is one of them. The rights of children is threatened. And all of us must rise above that and say, look, can we get money and pay the CBA so that education is not interfered with? Now, there's something which we likely to miss here. we are in transitioning from an old education system to a new one. Actually, in the secondary school, we have the last batch of 4 cohorts. Form 4, Form 3, Form 2, Form 1. Another curriculum. Now, the new curriculum has a myriad of challenges. We will complicate the scenario if teachers go on strike. Actually, we are looking at a situation where we can lose a whole generation. If this country, and I want to appeal to the president, and for me, I want to speak to the CS Treasury and tell him, please, this morning, walk up to your boss and tell him, this is how I think I can get 1 shilling here, 2 shilling here, 3 shilling here, because we cannot allow this.
So it's money or money.
It's money or money.
Janet, if you look at how, this has been handled in the past, even how other cabinet secretaries have handled such issues in the past, what would be your misses or hits, lessons that we can borrow from how we deal with this? I asked you earlier about industrial actions every time. Always like we have to wait until the very last minute for us to sit down and talk about the issues affecting a particular sector. What is it that we can learn from how this has been done or handled?
And I think, and I have been here for quite a while, and one of the best examples I can pick out of this is late Honorable Mutula Kilonzo.
Oh, yeah.
I really loved his soft power, because at the end of the day, I think we're dealing with 3 ministries here. We're dealing with the Ministry of Education as a parent sector, and then we're dealing with the Ministry of Labor, considering that this is an industrial dispute, and then we're dealing with Treasury, considering that these conversations involve money. So out of the 3,
the commission.
And then the Teacher Service Commission. And when I say the Ministry of Education, of course, I know that ministry is a head, including of the Teacher Service Commission. And therefore, out of these 3, there has to be one person that is really very prudent and knows how to go about a lot of these issues. Because in the past, we have suffered one thing, stereotyping. You are likely to get very interesting people that will not see the big picture, and they will see the attitudes of the unionists. And they decide that this one is arrogant, so we are not dealing. This one is arrogant, we are not dealing. And so this wastes time, as Omboko is saying. They've given sufficient notice. So a lot of these small issues are the ones that stand in between us and having actually the right negotiations. Going to see a CS for a courtesy call is okay, but it doesn't change the global price of guavas. That is where this conversation should get. And we want these 3 men. I'm happy there is no woman, because I would have said to the ladies and gentlemen, the 3 CSAs involved, our gentlemen, so that they actually have to locate the issues and locate the issues rightly. As we have articulated the issues here, the issues are legitimate, they are legal, and they threaten the right to education of the child. That should be the framework. It is not about which union is winning and what. That is not what should happen. Here, and we can also learn from what happened with the industrial action that we saw in the medical field. That the CS was accused of mismanaging the pre-industrial, pre-strike period, where these necessary negotiations to forestall. It will not be helpful that we now manage to settle this dispute after the strike has gone on for two weeks. So much will have been lost. And so we are saying that there is good time for people to be able to sit down and have these negotiations. I'm happy that we are certain it is money or money. And the teachers seem to be very clear about this. And I want to give an example of what happened with the Gen Z contest that we saw. The finance bill could have been withdrawn earlier. What stopped that? It is this grandstanding. It is people imagining that they can outsmart others. It is people imagining that there is a Kenyan sitting somewhere and there is no amount of words, you know, that maybe we are trying to massage things. I want to say here, for the avoidance of doubt, we say the Gen Z did not have leaders. They were leaderless. We say they did not have experience. We say they did not have anything. The unions of this country, and especially the teacher unions, are seasoned negotiators, and there are people who have done this today, in the past, and they have done it. This is a bad thing for any government to get itself into. The earlier the government sorts out this, the better for everyone. And let me tell you, where we have reached now, 1 week into it, and the parents will be on the streets too. Because we cannot allow more mismanagement of the public education sector for more than a week, for more than 2 weeks, and then we sit on these tables asking ourselves, do we adjust the terms by 2 weeks? This is the life of our children that we are talking about. Some of them don't have any other choice. You mismanage the public sector because your children are in private schools. We are not going to allow that, because we know what public schooling is for this country. We know that for you to be able to take your child to a private school, you must have above over 100,000. Kenyans of this country are not going to pay taxes, and then you mismanage public education sector. All right. Parents are going to protect the sector with everything they have.
Yeah. As you weigh in also, you're just about to take us to the staffing concerns about the promotions and also the shortages. I know you have a lot to also add on what the other panelists have also said. Mheshimiwa Omboko.
Yes, you know, the challenge we have with teaching, and which unfortunately, like my colleagues have indicated, is almost being flagged out, is that teaching is not being regarded as an important profession and institution. Therefore, education is third ranked or even fourth ranked. This idea of regarding teachers or teaching as a calling is no longer tenable. Teaching is a profession, because you'll start hearing statements like it's a calling. You will see statements like a good teacher is like a candle, lighting for the children and the other people. But forgetting that as a candle lights, it actually consumes itself. You will hear quick statements like they should be very, very emotive to just look at the education of our kids. But then we are seeing, like Nabi put it, we are seeing a manifestation of people trying to pay even their own managers of gardens better than they pay those whom they trust with the management of their children's education. And that is why even money was put on security early and the CBA forgotten. That was not correct. And just touching on a very salient issues of budget making process. And that is why I'm also pleading further with my president to act. I'm coming to what you want me to say, is that in the budget making process and the law making process, the president has a role. Why was the finance bill not ascended through and therefore it fell flat? Because the president himself has a role in law-making process and even this budget-making process. And that's why I'm appealing to him to act. Having said that, let me indicate that the teachers of Kenya are having a myriad of challenges. And those challenges are now just being manifested by the issue of the CBA not being acknowledged. But there are other salient problems. Do you know that the CPG, which teachers are supposed to use for to progress them, is actually curtailing their promotion? And that is why in this, we have also put it as one of the issues that we want to be dealt with, that we do away with the CPG, so that teachers can get promotion and teachers can also feel like they are actually a profession that enhances their growth. So many, many issues, some which I've talked about, some which I'm getting even now, are making the teachers go on strike on the 26th. And the only remedy to this, because that's where I have to move to, before Mbadi, after Mbadi had just been sworn in, because you know I operate in those spaces. And I want to thank the teachers of Kenya and the people for having taken me to Parliament. That's why I'm able to see that the money for Teacher Service Commission has been reduced and I raised an alarm. Formally, we would not do that. We would know that after 3 weeks. So even after when Mbadi had been sworn in, I asked the Speaker to talk. And do you remember this, the Speaker said? And I told Mbadi, one of the most important things you have to go and fix quickly is the teachers' money, which has been removed from this budget. And therefore, I'm also talking to the CS Treasury, on Mbadi, the man who taught me how to talk in parliament. He was my mentor. We sat close to each other, and he taught me about the zero ratings and so on and so forth. He has to act in what Janet is calling the pre-strike period. This is the most important period of the strike. So we shall talk here, and then the CS body possibly just forgets about it. The labor person, I visit him, courtesy call. We go to the commission, easy talk. We go to another ministry. We are wasting time. We need to act between now and the 26th.
That's like 12 days.
Yes,
a lot of time.
That's a lot of time. Once we avail the money, we are good to go.
Yes. Yes, I want to add on that table, and I can't wait to be in Parliament this morning to pass Dorcas, so that Dorcas assumes she's sworn in. She's one of the people I'm excited to have join executive as an Attorney General is Dorcas Oto, because she's firm, clear, and very, very knowledgeable. And I just recall she had just promised this country when she was being vetted that she will treat the executive with utter honesty. Why I need her is she's going to tell the executive that agreements are honored. As a country that respects its own constitution, please honor the CBA. I know Dorcas is watching me, and I know this morning we are going to pass her to be sworn in. I'm sure by the tomorrow, whatever the day, she'll be sworn in. And Dorcas should join Labour, Treasury, and Education to ensure that we don't go, teachers don't go on strike. Now, the challenges in education can be fixed by one stroke. Respect the law. You know, if we respected the law, the 22,000 capitation cannot reduce to 17. I mean, it can only increase because the cost of living is going up. If we respect the law, pension remittances of the teachers should be where it's supposed to be. Deductions on their pay slip should be remitted to the banks, to the insurance institutions, if we respect the law. I also want to say that we need to be honest with ourselves as a country. Sitting in education committee, you have seen the confusion we have been in on this new funding model, because people don't want to be honest. And when we are talking to those in authority, we must treat them honestly. That's what God calls of all of us. We cannot be telling our children to be honest when we in leadership are not honest to each other. So that if something is not working, you tell the powers that be that this one, yes, is a good thing to do, but for now, it is not working. Let's fix it. Finally, there's a very simple analogy of how to fix this thing of our teachers. If you have children in the house, they have to eat, they have to go to school, they have to go to hospital. You are earning 600 shillings. The 600 is reduced to 500. You will sit down and look at priority. You will make sure everybody has a meal. And this is what it is. For us, education is a meal. So when we even talk about the supplementary budget, we start by saying, can we ensure the children we have in the house are fixed first? You want to fix adults? You know, my daughter was asking me yesterday, we had a dinner together, and she was asking me, Daddy, you people, you said, the head of state said that you are going to tighten the belt. But when I saw the swearing of cabinet, none of them had less than a V8. I had no words. So I had to go. When I tried to say, no, she brought the vehicles with the flags getting out. I had no words. I just said, my daughter, we will look at it.
Remembering the Passats.
Exactly. I mean, we must mean what we say.
But Janet, do you think there is that genuine... we want to talk to the executive, but is it a listening executive? Because that also has been the issue. Is it a lack of advisors, or the advice is not adhered to? That's also the other issue.
I don't know that you need any advisors to tell you what you need to do, especially when we have a document that contains all the truth. And this document has to be our constitution. In fact, the president does not need any other advisor. Just read the document from front to back and understand it. Education is a right of every child. And the only thing that we're asking of the executive today, in fact, you realize that people have lost ambitions. We are not asking for much. We're just saying, can you leave education where you found it? It has taken 2 years to take education so far much behind. Can you believe in 2 years we have lost money that we have accumulated from the time President Kibaki, the late, gave to us free education? I can tell 2 decades. It has taken less than 2 years, because I think we are achieving 2 years this month, in September. That is when we will achieve 2. It has taken 2 years for Kenyans to lose 24% of that capitation grant. It has taken Kenyans 2 years to lose something called Edwafia. I need to tell you what Edwafia is. Is that children of this country had insurance. If your child had a toothache in school, the principal needed not to have a conversation with you, because the principal knew where she would take your child, and your child is attended to. What is happening at current? If your child has a headache in a boarding school, for example, there has to be a phone call to you, because the school also does not want your child to die in their hands, because that will be another legal battle, and the school does not want. So for them to be careful is that, hello, Mama Stella, your child has a headache, please come. Do you know, and I have sat here severally and told Kenyans that phone call, your child is in Mama Ngina Girls in Mombasa, and you're somewhere in Embu. That is a transaction of about 3,000 Kenya shillings, give or take, in fare. You know, these things look small, but at household level, these things mean everything. And Kenyans can clearly see the difference. That parent can see the difference. Why is it that 2 years ago, I did not have this kind of an expense? I was not having to worry that my child is in school and I can be called in any time. You know, for those years, we have enjoyed calm. We have not had that teachers are going on strike any other day. This is us now. Parents don't know. When I was coming in, I remember one conversation I was having with someone. I was there having, can go and say that that strike will also help us as parents, so that tujipange mambo ya kipesa nini. You know, Kenyans have started discussing things that they were not discussing. And my only ask, Kenyans have started discussing things that they were not discussing. And my only ask today to the executive is, please, do not assault education any further. Just leave education where you found it. You found programs rolling. And one other thing that I have said is that when the president will be talking to us about what he has done to education, can you believe this? He will say that he has increased bursaries. He has given members of parliament more money to spend on bursaries education. And who told you we want to take education back to tokenism? Kenyans, children of this country, do not have to go and queue to anybody for them to get 3,000 Kenya shillings for them to go to school. Put that money in schools so that any child wakes up every morning without having to beg anybody, without being reminded that they are poor, without being reminded that they are orphans. Can you strengthen our systems? Put that money in school, let the child get up, wash themselves, put on some uniform, and report to school. Is it too much to ask? We are not asking for anything more, but we are telling the executive, please take education back to where you found it. There was calm. We are not going to entertain a teacher's strike by the time schools are opening, because we know this is an examination period. Can you imagine the candidate children that are looking at us today, arguing and wondering whether schools are going to be opening? What are we doing to those children? We need them to have good climate to prepare for their exams.
Well, just coming to you, Mheshimiwa Mboko, as well, you call it a courtesy call, what happened yesterday between NAT and the Labour CS. I don't know whether you would be doing the same as a union, and what are some of the things that you're going to lay on the table if you accept an invite to this courtesy call?
Well, I'm quite a seasoned trade unionist. I would begin by being very humbled with humility. Whenever a new CS comes in place, we have to pay a courtesy call. You maybe also be driving me towards the end, or possibly looking at what I call a courtesy call as a prejudice. No. But it also, I must then say that usually there are many meetings that happen before a strike, and some of them don't add much value. I just use that word because I'm a very seasoned negotiator of CBS. So you will find so many happenings, many meetings, but those meetings don't do anything. They actually end up wasting time, buying time, until when the strike happens, like you saw with the doctor strike. But even me, I've written to the Labour CS, and I'll be paying a courtesy call to him. But he has a very big role to play, because all industrial disputes go to the Labour Ministry. They don't go to the employer per se. So his biggest role will be to receive the dispute, which we have already sent. Kenyuti has also sent. And after sending that dispute, we shall be meeting him. We have already arranged a meeting, possibly before Friday we shall be there, so that you follow the due processes of calling a strike, which is in law, the Labour Relations Act and the Employment Act. So it's not just a courtesy call with prejudice, but it is also delivering the message of a labour dispute between our teachers of Kenya and the Labour. We have already written to the Teachers Service Commission. The Teachers Service Commission, we have given it 7 days. They have replied us and indicated that they'll be calling us. When we go there, that could look like another courtesy call meeting, because it does not do much. They don't have money. A long time. So given what I am, I'm able to see these things in perspective.
So you still it's a courtesy call.
Whenever we saw the former head of government, what was his name? I can't forget. The one who left. We know we'll have a series of meetings. But when you see him attend, you now know that things are starting to get serious. So I know when things are getting serious and when things are not getting serious. I know when we are doing drama and when we are not doing drama. So many of the things we are seeing are drama. The serious issues have not begun happening. The following issues are also affecting the education sector. Today in the afternoon, the Parliament will be speaking on the university entry. Do you know that all the children who are going to university are scared to go to university because they were given letters of fees that is 600,000, 480,000, 756,000, and the Ministry of Education, I want the minister to settle down quickly so that he can actually look at the model of funding universities and not scare the children away. We are pursuing it as Parliament because we realize that the 600,000 letter that was given to a learner who is going to do information science is not the entire money that is supposed to pay, but that is the entire cost of the course. So there's this area, and we are therefore asking Parliament and the Speaker, we shall be asking the Speaker to resolve as a parliamentary resolution that they extend the dates for the issue for opening of universities and payment of fees to universities, so that this matter is dealt with before the students can go to university. And I want to tell Kenyans that those students who are giving up on university, don't give up. We are handling that matter. There's the issue of capitation, which seems to be a pet subject of Janet, and she's right. We believe we shall have to do an audit of the money going to the Ministry of Capitation and how the money is being used. Because we have to actually try to pool all those resources going to education, including the bursaries that come to members of Parliament, go to other players, including MCAs, go to county governments, go to the ministry. There's a lot of money, Janet, you can look in my eyes, which is around the education sector. We want to pool that money so that when we are acting, in fact, if we pull this money together properly, this education can be free. We are confronted with the issue of grade 9, which is coming in the wake of the teacher strike on 26th. And this grade 9, unless handled well, it will be a challenge for us. We are proposing, and I've already written not only to the president, to the minister, to TAC and other players, that let this grade 9 be moved to second school, especially in day schools, so that learning continues easily. These are children who are in 8 and have been going to Isurulo primary. There's Isurulo secondary. And there are no classes, there are no teachers, there are no facilities, there's no laboratory in the primary sector of the school I call Isurulo. But they are there in the secondary. Let them walk to the secondary and start learning. You know, we can also help this country to solve these things. And I hope the minister who has come in as the Minister of Education will be listening to us, so that we don't have a very serious crisis with this. But also there's something called Provident Fund, which is affecting the teachers of Kenya. You know, they are paying Provident Fund, they are paying NSSF, and it's a real challenge. These are issues we want to sort with them, but not losing the sight of the matter that we have today. The government must obey the court order. The court order is the CBA agreement that has been deposited in the courts between the teachers of Kenya and the government of Kenya. And that is the CBA. And this one is a remand. That unless that happens, the teachers of Kenya.
All right, I want us to sample feedback, and then we can close this conversation. Just talking about the looming teacher strike, Mheshimiwa Omboko insists they are not threatening, they're actually going on strike. We have Engineer Lazaro saying, Mr. Omboko Milemba, please give new cabinet nominees a chance. They're no longer nominees.
Didn't I tell you that? You will hear
a chance to settle in the office. You and your members should be patriotic enough to understand the situation
Omboko has been
on the
patriotic for 12 years.
All right. So Nixon Nungire, to our new CS Education, Mr. Julius Migoso Gamba, please take good care of our teachers, motivate them and take education to the highest notch. A good education system can change anyone, but a good teacher can change everything. Okay, Frank Orinde, we are what we are because of teachers. Teachers deserve better, and the government should really find a better way of negotiating with teachers. Human capital is critical to every economic growth, and teachers play a key role in shaping human capital.
Great.
That's Frank. Clement Koreme, you're saying Public Service Commission is more effective and uncompromised compared to TAC. They should take over the hiring and payments of
our members are becoming.
All right.
Which should never happen.
Let me finish. Mr. Peter Guresa, you're saying let the government implement CBA to avoid the looming strike, having in mind that in third term KCSE will be done. We have Ogachi Valerie, let the government hear the cry of teachers and pay them. We can't afford another strike when the country has just come out of months of protests. All right, thank you so much for the feedback. I'll just give my panelists 30 seconds each for your final remarks. Let me begin with you, Mheshimiwa Nabi.
I have this appeal to 3 institutions. One is the institution of the presidency. That the buck stops with you, Your Excellency, on this issue. Unfortunately for us, you negotiated. You actually provided the platform for the negotiation of this CBA.
True.
So please stick to your word. The second appeal is to Parliament. As we reconvene this afternoon, we can also make a statement, and that statement will be respected on this issue. And finally, the new CS for education. Please get your house to order. Just because Honorable Omboko mentioned it, Omboko, I sit in the Public Accounts Committee. We have asked formally, and the process has begun, to do audit of capitation.
Thank you.
Because we believe there's a problem.
Yeah.
No, thank you so much. Janet?
To the President of the Republic of Kenya, President William Ruto, if schools do not open on 26th of August, it will be very, very serious indictment on your presidency. We are appealing to you, especially as parents and people who really believe in the right to education of children. Please intervene listen to what the teachers are saying. We do not want to see a last minute, like what we did with the finance bill, that after so much death is when then we are resolving something. It will not be fair to resolve this after a strike has gone on for 2 or 3 weeks, because remember, this is an examination period. KCSE, KCP, and also for the junior schools. Please, Mr. President, listen to the teachers and give the parents of this country and the children what they deserve.
All right, Mheshimiwa Mboko.
For the teachers countrywide, and this strike is being called by both Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers and KNUT. Start arming yourselves, start getting serious, because there are certain margins that we cannot go beyond, and we have been driven to those margins. So start getting ready, mobilize yourselves, talk to each other, and be ready that when you are called out finally on Friday, no, it's tomorrow, the unions are having KUPPET is having the National Governing Council. That is the body that declares strike officially. So it will be here in town tomorrow, God willing. KNUT is having theirs very, very soon, because there's a process and the notices will be out. So be ready and be strong. We have to fight for our rights. These are the very, very last margins. But I'm also hopeful, because Jeremiah, my own other name for Christianity is Jeremiah. I also give hope. I want to ask the president, because I have faith in you. You can resolve this matter by simply calling the parties you were with when we began the matter of the CBA. And I'm proud that I was one of those people, plus the KNUT Brigade, and instruct your CES Mbadi to give this money, to make sure that the teachers have their CBA, the teachers have their medical cover, the teachers have their promotion money, and the teachers have their the CPG scrapped, and other demands we have put to you, and we shall proceed well. Thank you.
All right, well said. That is the much that we can be able to cover for now, depending on the time that we had this particular morning. Just talking about the looming teacher strike and the issues that have been put on the table, the demands by teachers for both unions, the Kenya National Union of Teachers and KUPPET. And we had a representation from KUPPET this morning, the national chairperson, who is also the MP for Emuhaya constituency, Mheshimiwa Mboko Milemba. And also I was having this conversation with Janet Ouko, an education expert, and of course also Mheshimiwa Nabina Bwera, who sits in the National Assembly Education Committee, Mheshimiwa for Lugari constituency. Thank you, gentlemen and lady, for creating time. We are going to be taking a very short break. We are crossing over into the health segment in just a bit. This morning we are talking about matters fertility. I'm having an expert who's going to answer all those questions that you have been asking when it comes to this very pertinent aspect of our lives. So do stand by for that and much more